It began the summer the carnival rolled into town, bright banners snapping in the wind, laughter spilling over the main street like music. Our town wasn't used to excitement. Nothing ever happened here beyond church picnics and county fairs, but that year was different. That year, he came. He arrived with the carnival, but he wasn't a carny. No, he was too well dressed for that, too smooth in the way he spoke, his shoes too polished to belong to a man who spent nights setting up tents and rides. He had a way of looking at people as if he'd known them forever, like he could see straight through their skin into their hearts. That's what made everyone trust him. Within a week, he'd charmed the mayor, the sheriff, and even Mrs. Adler, who hadn't spoken to anyone in town for nearly a decade. People said he had a way of making you feel like you mattered, like you were the only one in the room worth listening to. And he listened. Oh, he listened so well. Folks started confiding in him, telling him about the money they had tucked away for their kids' college funds, the plans they had for fixing up the old church, the grudges they'd been holding for years. And then, as if by magic, he offered them solutions. "I can double that money for you in a month," he'd say, his voice soft and sincere. "All I need is your trust." One by one, they handed over their savings, convinced that this stranger was their miracle. But I'd seen men like him before. I watched from my porch as he walked down Main Street, tipping his hat to passersby, smiling that smile that could melt ice. I noticed the way his eyes darted, always calculating, always measuring. He never lingered too long in one place. He made sure never to write anything down, never to leave a trail. I knew what he was doing long before anyone else did. At first, I thought about warning them. I nearly marched into the general store one morning, ready to shout it from the doorway. But something stopped me. People who are desperate for hope don't listen to warnings. They only resent the one who gives them. So I waited. The day it all came crashing down was quiet. No wind, no carnival music, no sound but the crows gathering on the telephone wires like they knew something bad was coming. Folks woke to find the stranger gone. No note, no trace, no carnival. Just empty pockets and broken promises. The town was in an uproar, running from house to house, trying to figure out what happened. Some people cried. Some people cursed. Most just sat on their porches with their heads in their hands, staring at the dirt road where he'd once stood. I didn't join them. I walked out to the edge of town, where the tracks curved toward the horizon, and found what I'd been looking for. He was there, sitting on an old bench with his suitcase by his side, waiting for the next train. "You're leaving," I said. He didn't look surprised to see me. He just smiled, the same smile he'd given everyone else.
"You knew I would," he said.
I nodded. "You took everything they had." "Not everything," he said, and for a second, I almost believed there was regret in his voice. "They still have hope. People like that always do. They'll rebuild. They'll forgive themselves eventually. And maybe next time, they won't be so trusting." I stood there a long moment, watching him. I could have dragged him back, called the sheriff, made a scene. But the train whistle blew in the distance, long and low, and I stepped back. He tipped his hat to me as he climbed aboard, and then he was gone, swallowed by the sound of the rails. The town never really forgave itself. They patched up the church, scraped together what little they could, but something in them stayed broken after that summer. And me, I kept my porch chair facing the road, always watching. Because I knew someday, somewhere, there'd be another man with polished shoes and a perfect smile. It began the summer the carnival rolled into town, bright banners snapping in the wind, laughter spilling over the main street like music. Our town wasn't used to excitement. Nothing ever happened here beyond church picnics and county fairs, but that year was different. That year he came. He arrived with the carnival, but he wasn't one of them. No, he was too well dressed, too precise. His shoes were polished, his jacket tailored, and his voice smooth enough to make even the most suspicious farmer lean forward and listen. He had a way of looking at people as if he'd known them forever, like he could see straight through their skin into their hearts. And people loved him for it. He set up in the old Granger building, the one that had stood empty for years, its windows dusty and its doors chained shut until the day he arrived with a key no one knew he had. Within days, He had turned it into a place people actually wanted to visit. A warm, inviting office with coffee brewing, chairs arranged in circles, soft music playing on an old record player. People came in curious, but they left smiling. He told them he could help. Money troubles, broken marriages, bad luck. They all brought him their troubles, and somehow he always had an answer. For a while, it worked. Folks swore their lives were turning around, that he had some gift no one could explain. He became the most trusted man in town. But I had seen men like him before. I watched from my porch as he strolled down Main Street, tipping his hat, shaking hands, speaking in that low, calm tone that could settle even the loudest argument. I noticed how he never stayed in one place too long, how he asked just enough questions to get people talking, how he always made sure to write nothing down. I knew what he was doing before anyone else did. At first, I kept quiet. I'd learned a long time ago that warning people doesn't stop them from getting hurt. Sometimes it just makes them cling to the lie harder. So I waited and I watched, and I kept my distance as one family after another gave him everything they had. By the time the truth came out, it was too late. He was gone before the sun rose. No note, no apology, just a town full of empty bank accounts and broken hearts. The carnival left with him, as if they'd never been there at all. The anger came first. People shouted in the streets, blamed one another for being fooled, turned their suspicion on anyone who hadn't given him money. Then came the shame. They stopped meeting each other's eyes, stopped laughing in the diner, stopped talking about him altogether, as though silence could erase what had happened. But I couldn't leave it alone. I followed the tracks that led out of town, past the wheat fields and the river bend, until I found him. He was sitting on an old bench at the edge of nowhere, his suitcase at his feet, watching the horizon as if it belonged to him. "You," I said. He looked up at me, and that smile was still there, the same smile that had charmed the whole town. "I wonder how long it would take you to find me." "You fooled them all," I said. "But not me." He didn't flinch. "You knew what I was from the start." I nodded. "And still you let me do it," he said, almost admiringly. "Why?" I stepped closer, close enough to see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes. "Because they had to see it for themselves," I said. "They wouldn't have believed me if I told them." He considered that for a moment, then nodded, as though we had reached an understanding. "You're not going to stop me?" he asked. The train whistle blew in the distance, long and low, and I stepped back. "No," I said. "But I will be waiting next time. And there will be a next time. People like you always circle back." For the first time, his smile faltered. Just a flicker. But it was enough. The train arrived, and he boarded it without another word. I stood there until the last car disappeared into the horizon, until there was nothing left but the sound of the wind in the grass. When I walked back into town, I didn't tell anyone where I'd been. Some lessons have to linger. Some wounds have to stay open a little longer before they can heal. And me, I still sit on my porch every evening, watching the road. Because I know someday, somewhere, there'll be another man with polished shoes and a perfect smile. And when he comes, I'll be ready.